Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be my March reading wrap-up. I'm a bit groggy today, but I think I'll be worse tomorrow, so I'm filming today. I read 16 books this month and DNF'd like 4 or 5. In some cases they were actual DNFs and in some cases they were, I'll try to finish this next month. Which is what happened with The Sound of Stars. I'm 100 pages into it and I like it, but depression happened again. And so the thing where I only read light fluffy books when I'm depressed happened. So you'll see books that I wasn't intending to read but that were light and fluffy, such as A Girl Like Her, That Kind of Guy, and Untouchable by Talia Hibbert. Which I got onto because I heard about A Girl Like Her from Renee of the Librarian of Alexandria. On her channel she talked about it and said that it had autism rep in it, and I was like, I should read that. And I really liked it. It was very good, and it was a romance. And romances are some of those easy to digest, happy things that are easier to read when I'm down than post-alien invasion type stories. And also several other things that she recommended me, like Geekerella, Geek Girl, The Downstairs Girl, and then someone else recommended The Sun Is Also a Star, which is yet another romance. So, first book I read in the month, Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali, and I absolutely love this. I talked about it quite a bit on Twitter and on Instagram, so I will link those posts below, at least the Instagram ones. I probably won't be able to find the Twitter ones, but Yasmin, who I will link below, said that there was another Muslim romance that, or at least a contemporary, that she said didn't do a very good job on the Muslim representation in her opinion, and it certainly didn't represent someone who was actually active in their faith. It represented someone who didn't feel particularly strongly about the religion. I'm really yellow right now. And so she thought that if you're looking for practicing Muslim representation, you should read this instead. So I decided that would be something I should check out, and I really, really liked it. And I figured out, once again, how much I, as someone who takes my Christian faith very seriously, it has a lot in common with a Muslim who takes their faith very seriously. Just because of some of the shared roots, but also a lot of the shared code of conduct type stuff, but also some of the praying and interacting with God type stuff. So that was really, really cool. The other book that I kind of learned that from first was Love and Headscarf. That was, that I really enjoyed that as well. But this impressed it further on me and actually inspired me to look up more information about burkinis, because burkinis are mentioned and the main character, the lady main character, wears one to swim in, because I'm really uncomfortable in swimsuits. It just makes me uncomfortable. And I thought that might actually be something I could wear to be comfortable, so I looked it up and found out that the creator doesn't have a problem with non-Muslims using it. She just wants women to feel free to cover themselves up while swimming, and so I ordered myself one. So I now own one of those, so when swimming pools open up again, I will actually swim for the first time since I was a tween, basically. So I'm really, really excited about that. But the actual story is a romance between these two people. They meet in an airport and then actually happen to have family connections. Like, her aunt is a very close friend of his family, and so they are put together quite a bit in, what's the name of the country? Doha, which is a city in, I think it's Qatar. But anyway, a little tiny country on the Arabian Peninsula where there's quite a lot of mixing of cultures going on. A very interesting little place that we got to explore quite a bit as the two kind of did touristy things around the city. And there's also chronic illness rep and like treatment of illness and that was really cool. And their romance was freaking adorable, and they both have really sweet relationships with their families. And Zainab talks a lot about social issues. She's very social justice engaged, especially where it concerns Muslims, but other people too. And so she talked a lot about that, and one of the subjects of the book was her campaigning to expose Islamophobia, especially in her school. And so there's really a lot of awesome stuff about it, so I highly recommend if you haven't checked it out yet. Why don't I take here the other physical book I have here. Catfishing on Catnet. This one I read after I got depressed because it is a nice, light, contemporary. There is some dark stuff in it, but the overall setting of the story isn't dark. It's just in a normal town, a little bit more advanced than us maybe, where AI has gotten a little farther than it has in real life. And so we're introduced to an AI in the first chapter who talks about liking pictures of animals, and then we're introduced to this catnet thing where you basically pay to be on the server by posting pictures of animals, and this in return the server runs this whole chat group thing that encourages you to find other like-minded animal people and forms really cool friendships and does all the admin work for the pictures. And that's a really cool concept. This one was recommended to me by Angela again. She really liked it, and I wasn't sure from just the concept, but I trusted your recommendation and it turned out really well. It is basically about this girl who has been moving around really often her whole life, like every few days to couple of months, never longer than that. And her mother says it's because her father is dangerous, and so the only friends she has long term are her internet friends, specifically on this catnet. And so we get to see her talking with her online friends. We get to see her making new in-person friends at this new school where things go down that put her in a bit of danger and make it so that she needs the support and help of her online friends. And so basically it was about a combination of AI and are AI people, and can they feel emotions, and if they could feel emotions and they liked animal pictures and one of the people who used their websites was in trouble, what would they do? And also about the importance of online friendships and how strong those can be and how important they can be both for your mental health and your physical health. And I loved all of those themes and all of the explorations of that. Also, it's queer in multiple ways. There are non-binary characters. There is a female-female romance that is very sweet, and overall just very cozy and uplifting and heartwarming. Before I got depressed, I managed to read both Raybearer and Nine Fox Gambit, and I did a whole video on that, so I'll link that below in case you're interested in my thoughts. Basically, they're both really good. I love the characters of both, the setting and world building of both, the plot of both. They were really amazing and were really interesting in my March Battle of the Books matchup. I also finished the audiobook of The Bear and the Nightingale, which I had started in February, and I got a little bogged down with it because it was a little dark and had a lot of, because of the setting and because it involved arranged marriages, there was some marital rape that was brushed off really lightly and made me super uncomfortable, but all the other parts were really nice, and I really liked the folklore elements and how the main character, who's like Katia or Katia, something with a K, how she interacted with the local spirit folk type. And then later on in the book we got to see a lot more of those magical fantasy elements, and I really enjoyed that. I am thinking that I will continue the series because I don't think the rest of it will have that much of that stuff I didn't like in it, so we will see. And then I read the audiobook of Sal and Gabby Break the Universe, which was a sci-fi in almost current day, maybe a little bit ahead, and it's one of Rick Riordan Presents, and I've kind of been gradually every couple of months working my way through those, and it was really fun. I liked the voice acting. I liked the whole magic used for pranks, but also for really emotional difficult stuff, and how the main character called this sci-fi stuff magic, because he was also a magician, like the real kind that does magic tricks. And I really liked all of the emotional stuff and the dualism of the two main characters, because it's Sal and Gabby. I liked their relationship. But yeah, it's just another really nice middle grade sci-fi for a change instead of fantasy. Also with a really nice stepmother relationship, which I really appreciate when those are positive. And then The Sun Is Also a Star, which I started reading after I got depressed, because and this is when I started whipping through happy sappy audiobooks. I think that one was recommended also by Yasmin, but I'm not sure. It's a romance between a black woman from Jamaica. She was born in Jamaica and her parents immigrated with her when she was 8, so she's also from America, who is being deported within 24 hours of the beginning of the story. And a Korean man, I'm pretty sure, who has a family who owns a black hair care store, and how they bump into each other and through a whirlwind of a day have a romance that's really sweet, and also looks at a lot of issues. So like there's a whole section on hair and on black hair and how Koreans got involved in the black hair care business, which I had no idea about. It was fascinating. And then there's stuff about how the main character is working with this lawyer to try to beat the deportation, and how the other main character is trying to figure out whether he's going to do what his parents want for a job and for an education, or if he's going to chart his own path. And it was really interesting. I really liked all the topics covered, and it was one of the more believable and enjoyable one-day romances. Usually I don't like those very much and don't find them very believable, but I like this one quite a bit, especially because of all the deep conversations they had. Next up, because of Renee, I got the audiobook of Geek Girl, which I talked about in my Books with Autism Rep video. It doesn't specifically have autism rep, but it has neurodivergent rep, certainly, and so I'll link that below as well. But it's basically about a girl who is termed a geek at her school and is bullied a lot, who suddenly becomes a fashion model, and how she handles that. Usually I just listen to the audiobook while I play video games or while I do something else. But this one I wanted to keep listening to even though I didn't have anything to do while I listened. And then the same thing happened with Geekerella. That was really enjoyable and was recommended by Renee as a book with a sweet, kind male love interest. That was very enjoyable again. And I also enjoyed that even though it was a Cinderella retelling, the romantic relationship wasn't the primary relationship. The primary relationship was more with the fairy godmother type character, who is a platonic friend of the female main character. And I also really loved the cosplay elements, where dressing up for the ball is dressing up for a cosplay competition. And it was a fairly simple book, but it was a nice easy book for when I was not feeling very well. A very nicely produced audiobook, with I believe one voice actor for each perspective. It was dual perspective, and it was just a really nice sweet time. Then A Girl Like Her, as I said, was recommended by Renee, and I read it for the autism rep, and I hadn't realized for some reason that Talia Hibbert had a bunch of other books that she wrote before she wrote Get a Life Chloe Brown, and so my library doesn't have very many of them, but it does have this Ravenswood series. This first one is about a girl who writes a, what's it called? A webcomic, a sci-fi webcomic with the occasional sex scene that she actually is able to make money off of, so pretty successful in that area, and but she also partially lives off a trust that she got from her father, who abandoned her mother, which is a whole complicated backstory. But she gets into a romance with her next door neighbor. I really love that romance that is all about him being super sweet and just wanting to take care of people, and I really love seeing a male character who has that I want to take care of everyone thing, because he also takes care of his co-worker who has a mom with cancer and they need food and casseroles brought over to them, and so while he's making them for those people, he also makes a casserole for his neighbor who is pathetic and can't cook. It's not dwelt upon, but this character is also talked about as being fat, much like her three main characters from her Brown Sisters series, so she's always doing lots of fat rep, and I really love the neurodivergent rep. That was just really well done. And then I found out that it's on a list of Own Voices autism books, so apparently Talia Hibbert is has said that she is autistic. I didn't know she had. I only knew that she was chronically ill. So that's really cool, and I'm really happy to have found another autistic author. And also Eve, the Eve Brown book, the new one, is on that list, and I didn't know that her chronic illness was autism. I just knew that she was another of the chronically ill sisters, so that's really cool. Autism isn't necessarily a chronic illness, but it tends to go with chronic illness. It's a neurodivergence. Anyway, complicated, interrelated, but I'm very excited to read that now. And so since I like this book so much, I went on and read the two other books in the series, which are Untouchable and That Kind of Guy. Untouchable is about a child care worker, so I was really touched by that, who has a criminal record because she stood up for her sister and wrecked a guy's car, which, if you're not aware, if you cause enough property damage, it's considered like grand something. Like stealing a car is grand theft auto, wrecking a car is grand destruction of property or something. So you get in a lot more trouble for that than for destroying a cheap piece of property. So don't actually wreck your ex's car. That's not a good way to get revenge. You need to do something that isn't illegal, like sprinkle glitter all over their stuff. Micro glitter, by the way, is better than any other type of glitter because it's way harder to clean because it's way more static electricity involved. Anyway, so she can't get a job in a regular childcare center, but she can be privately employed, and so this brother of the guy from the first book, who has a mother with cancer, so he also has a mother with cancer, has moved back into town, is a single parent with 2 kids, needs childcare because he wants to be available to help his mother out, and so he hires her and they have a sweet romance, and the whole power imbalance is addressed really a lot, and consent is really carefully worked with, and so I really liked that and appreciated that. And I also really liked how much joy the main character got from taking care of kids, because that's just like me. And then That Kind of Guy is about a demisexual guy, which I didn't know going in. I just discovered that, and that is the brother who got taken the casseroles in the first book, and the brother of the main male character from the second book. And he falls in love with a lady with POTS, which is a chronic illness that I have heard about from Jessica Kellgren Fozard, who and it's a thing you have to do a lot of dietary things for, but it also just means you faint when you get up too fast and have bad circulation. And she's also has depression, and Zach, this main character, has had depression in the past, so lots of mental health rep and chronic illness rep, and also A-spec rep, so that was really, really cool. And most of the romance takes place during a fake dating relationship over the course of a fantasy book convention, so that aspect is really fun as well. Then I reread Into the Drowning Deep for my book club, and I also reviewed this one in my autism books video, and the reason I had recommended it for my book club was because of the really nice autism rep, as well as I thought it would be a good one for the book club. So I kind of like looked at my autism rep list of books and was like, which one would my book club friends like? Because I thought they really needed to read one of those, and they voted for it, so it's not like I forced them to read it. That is a near future sci-fi about killer mermaids. Then I read Faithless and Death, which I think came out in February. It's the newest In Death book by J.D. Robb. It's the 52nd book, and so I can't really talk about the characters or anything, but the plot this time was about a woman who got murdered directly after she threatened to tattle on her lover because her lover was cheating with her on her fiance. And so, and there's this thing called natural order that is involved with the cheater's parents. It's like an alt-right cult with racism and sexism. And so when those things come up in these books, usually the main character, Eve Dallas, isn't going to leave it alone, and usually it's going to come more into it and be involved in the murder. And so I was pretty sure from early on that somehow this book was going to involve that and we were going to take down some cultists. So I really enjoyed that whole aspect, and once again, really cute found family going on, and the subplot involves really cute found family stuff. Then I just finished the audiobook of The Downstairs Girl, again recommended by Renee, for a kind love interest, and it did have that, and somehow I didn't know from other people talking about this. I must not have paid attention. Like, I don't know, I caught other details about it, but not this. But it is about, and this comes up like right at the beginning, it's the main point of the book, the main character is a secret agony aunt, which is like Dear Abby is the version we had in my newspaper, where people write in and then this newspaper person writes advice back to them, and usually it's a pseudonym, and in this case it is a Chinese woman who there was pretty bad racism against at the time. There is now as well, but there was like officially sanctioned racism against them at the time, and I really appreciated that this looked at that. Like, there was a significant Chinese specifically population in America at the time. I'm not sure what the dates are, but there were various like specific laws that were specifically against Chinese people in America in like from late 1800s to early 1900s. So it was really good to have that perspective in that time frame. And this also addresses racism against black people because it's fairly soon after the Civil War, so black people are freed but are not remotely equal, and there are a bunch of laws, Jim Crow, going on. And it was about this main Chinese girl becoming a agony aunt, a secret one, because no one would want to hear from a Chinese girl. So she had to play the part of a white woman. And there's also aspects of how she is a hat maker, and that's like her primary profession until she gets fired from it for being Chinese, just because the owner of her hat shop felt like it, and how she then goes to work on for these rich people as a lady's maid, possibly, for a family that she worked for when she was a child. She's going back there while also doing this secret newspaper writing, because, and the way she got involved in that is she lives underneath the print shop of this family who makes this small newspaper, and she wants to help them out by getting them more subscriptions, by writing really interesting articles, because she's grateful having a place to live because of them, even if they didn't know about it. And I really liked seeing all those aspects, and also the really adorable romance, and also sweet found family. And then I got 2 books from NetGalley. I haven't done NetGalley before because usually I have a hard enough time keeping up with books that are already out to be reading ARCs, but I really wanted to read Firekeepers Daughter. First of all, my library didn't have it for a while to request, and then once it did, it had a fairly long wait list, so I got it on there and got really into it. I was just coming out of my depression reading slump when I started that one, which is good because it's a thriller. It's not particularly light. It's got death and drug abuse and all sorts in it, and there's a lot to talk about with this book, but I'm tired. Where to start? Okay, it is about a young Ojibwe woman who is not an official member of the tribe because her mother is white and she was 16 when she got pregnant with her, and so she didn't have control over whether or not the father was on the birth certificate, and the father was the Ojibwe one, so she's not officially part of the tribe, but she is very close with her family members in the tribe who are very kind and welcoming to her. So she's also close with her half-brother, who is her father's kid with another woman. So she has lots of ties to the tribe and feels like part of it. As far as community, there's a lot of talk about the push and pull of being part of the Ojibwe community, but also not feeling totally like it because sometimes people treat her like she's too white to be part of them, and then feeling a lot of racism from her white family. So the feeling out of place in both worlds thing, and then also the main plot is about the meth that has gotten into her community and is killing people, both through killing the users and then the users killing other people because they are high on meth, and how an FBI investigation comes into town and wants her help to figure out who the people are who are cooking the meth, and they think that she can help because she has ties to the community, and also she is a specialist in how traditional Ojibwe medicines can be used and what their chemical properties are, and some traditional medicines have been found in the meth. So they want her help to like track down where it's coming from, and that whole aspect was really interesting. Personally, I felt like the main character was a little unsuspicious of the people around her as far as, gee, that's drug dealer behavior, because even when I was 17, which she is, I had learned the stereotype of fancy ass car plus rundown house indicates drug dealer. The fancy car thing, the having money you shouldn't have based on what you know of their work. Like some people, her explanation for people having fancier stuff than they should be able to afford is that they had income from the casino on tribal land, but she spells out how much money that is, and it's not that much money. Like, it's life-changing for a poor person, but it's not get a fancy car type money. And there were a few times where it was like well laid out by the author of doing foreshadowing and making it make sense that these people would be drug dealers, but like it was weird that the main character, despite having a very good friend who was who became addicted to drugs, that she wasn't more sensitive to what drug users and drug dealers look like. I don't know, so I found that kind of funny and easy to predict, but everything else about it, especially the parts involving the Ojibwe community and especially of those involving the elders of the community and how kind they were to her and how meaningful her relationships with them were and how they were pillars of the community and how much they cared and how that they would work together as a team. I really love that. So that was really cool to read about. And also the scientific parts about traditional medicines and chemical reactions and stuff like that. Then the other book I got from NetGalley was The Language You Were Never Taught to Speak, and this is a poetry collection, and it is queer, and I'm not sure which East Asian country the author is from, but one of them. And so there are aspects of American versus that particular East Asian culture, and also queerness and Christianness and how those two interact. A lot of really meaningful, nice stuff that gave me a lot of interesting thoughts. It's about 80 pages, so it's not too much, and I liked every poem. I don't usually like every poem that a particular author writes, but every one of these was really meaningful, and also I really liked the flow of it and the sound of it in my head, and of course the topics were very interesting. So I'd love to know what you read in March, if you've read any of these, what you thought, and what type of books you read when you're tired and unhappy, if there's like a particular comfort genre that you like. If you'd like to leave an emoji, perhaps a black heart for reading romances when you're sad. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!